welcome to Your Own Pathway Therapy Conversations, where we talk about what most therapists only whisper about. For those who don't know me, my name is Paia. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, turned upon my life coach, and organizational leadership consultant. And here we speak on the topics we've been conditioned to stay quiet about, the ones that rock the boat. But here, nope, we're not protecting the silence. We're breaking it. So let's own it. And today's episode is about systems and everything in between. So I don't know if any of you have seen of late, and for those who have not, this episode relates to the latest classification that the DOE, the Department of Education, just recently came up with. And what they did was they reclassified which fields count as professional. And let me tell you right now, this is not just a paperwork issue. This is not just a loan cap issue. This is a systematic issue with long term consequences for healthcare, mental health, and education. So, you know what? Let's get right into it. So, what happened? So, the DOE, the DOE's new policy quietly released several fields, including social work, nursing, audiology, speech language pathology, physical therapy, occupational therapy, and more, not just as professional degrees. Huh? All right. So, what does this actually mean? This means that these programs no longer qualify for the same graduate plus loan amounts. They are also being grouped with non professional master's degrees, and the students will now face borrowing caps far below what their program costs. What is this all about? So, let's put this in plain language. What they're doing is they are reducing our access to educational funding because they no longer consider these degrees professionals. I don't know about you, but as I read off those are the most professional degrees that we have, okay? And even though all those degrees that I just mentioned, all those professions that I just mentioned, most of us, if not all, require a graduate degree, so master's degree. We require licensure. We require clinical hours, thousands of clinical hours. We require board exams. We carry ethical and legal responsibility. We are mandated reporters, and our work directly impacts community safety and health. And yet, somehow, these professions are no longer professional enough to qualify for the loan amounts required to actually complete the degree. And this is not just an administrative change, that's a value statement right there. So I want to talk about when this came out. And of course, when something this big comes out, there's always mixed reaction. And you have the people who are supporting this, like the people in these professions who are supporting this. And as always, there's always the other side who are saying, you're overreacting, you're not understanding this. And so, I've seen some comments online, mostly from people who are not in these fields, by the way, saying things like, well, people are reacting. Well, this is not only about loan caps, or this is for schools to lower tuition. No, no, let's be very clear here, respectfully or not respectfully, depending on how you're feeling today watching this episode. We're not overreacting. And no, no, this will not make schools lower tuition. Higher education has never lowered tuition because federal funding has tightened. Institutions adjust by accepting fewer students, not by cutting costs. So, what happens when fewer students enter fields like social work, nursing, therapy, audiology, physical therapy, occupational therapy? We don't just magically get cheaper programs. What happens is we have staffing shortages, we have long wait lists, we get burnout, we get unsafe caseloads, and we get communities without care. I know And everybody knows who is currently in these fields or who has been a patient of any of this, we all feel it. We're all feeling all of this right now. So, this is not a lone issue. This is a healthcare work crisis. So, let's talk about the word professional because people clearly do not understand what it means in our field. Again, these degrees require intense graduate level study, thousands of supervised hours, national licensing exams, mandatory continuing education, legal accountability, ethical boards, and mandated reporting. We make decisions that could literally change and protect someone's life. Calling that not professional isn't just inaccurate, it's dangerous. And what it does is it communicates a deeper message here. Your work is valuable enough to burden, but not valuable enough to support. Mm. So let's get to the real issue. As I was reading all of those professionals, do you notice something? Yes, most of these professions are held by women. Okay, let's not deny that. Yes, there are men in these fields too, but most of these professions are held by women. And the real issue here is the misogyny and the devaluing of women's labor. I know this is hard to acknowledge, but we're going to acknowledge this in today's episode. Again, most of these professions are women dominated, they are care oriented, they are empathy driven, they are relational, they're underpaid, they are emotionally taxing, and essential to community health and safety, and historically devalued. When you look at what fields got downgraded, of course, there's a pattern. Again, they are overly whelming fields done by women and also disproportionately by women of color, nursing, mostly women, social work, mostly women, SLMP, mostly women, OTPT, mostly women, therapists, mostly women, and this is not a coincidence. This is a systematic devaluation of women centered labor work. Because let's be honest, if this was engineering, if this was law, if this was finance, if this was tech, if this was medicine, oh, would this reclassification be happening? Absolutely not. Because the government knows exactly what it is doing, especially this administration. And I'm calling out for what it is, especially this administration. This administration is making it harder and more expensive to enter fields that women dominate and that women of color hold up. And that right there matters. Because when you shrink access to education in these fields, you shrink access to care. So, moving on, let's talk about this. What are the consequences of a broken system? And I promise you, it's only going to get worse. So, here's what this decision really actually creates. It creates fewer clinicians, fewer nurses, fewer mental health providers, fewer mandate reporters, fewer trained professionals keeping our communities safe. And again, I know anybody who's watching this who is either a provider or a patient has felt all of this already. We already have a mental health crisis. We already have a child welfare crisis. We already have a healthcare staffing crisis and the massive burnout across all care professions. And so this decision makes every one of those problems even worse than it is now. And the government cannot claim to care about the public if it refuses to support the professionals who serve the public. The government cannot say, "Oh, we care about mental health," while making mental health programs inaccessible. They cannot say, oh, we care about child safety, while deprofessionalizing the very people responsible for mandated reporting. They cannot say, oh, but we care about healthcare, while shrinking the workforce pipeline. Quite frankly, this isn't just irresponsible. This is freaking dangerous. And so, as most of you can see, I'm very passionate about this, and we're not overreacting. We're not overreacting about this. And all of us have every right to be concerned who are in the professions and who are not in professions, but who receive care from these professions. And quite frankly, it is all of us. So we are responding appropriately to a decision that reveals how little our government places um, care, especially work on women and on community well-being. Because when you deprofessionalize a field, you just don't affect the students who are going for that field. You affect every single person who depends on these professionals for safety, health, and stability. If the DOE does not revise or reverse this decision, we will see the consequences for years in our hospitals, in our schools, our clinics, and our communities. So, care work is professional work, and it deserves respect, support, and recognition, not downgrading. And I am going to keep saying that on this platform and every platform because this matters. So, for anyone who's in those professions that I just mentioned or is in the bill, I want all of us to own your truth, protect your profession, and as always, own it. So, that is all I have for today. And if you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like button. If you are interested in your own pathway and other episodes that I have out there, definitely hit the subscribe button. But that is all I have for today. And take care, and I'll see you all next time.